Another season of Forgotten Horror has come to an end, but as Field paraphrases Al Pacino from Scent of a Woman,
we're just getting warmed up!
Spend the next few months with Forgotten Cinema as Season 7 kicks off with movies from all across the decades. We jump to the 70s to talk about The Front Page, starring Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau.
We dive into the 80s with Michael Mann's Thief and the Dennis Quaid Meg Ryan thriller DOA, and then slice into Butler's childhood years, the 90s, with The Last Samurai and The Negotiator.
That's right, Field. You're old. So very, very old.
Shut up, Butler.
Forgotten Cinema, part of the Forgotten Entertainment family. Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Dave.
And join us every Thursday for a new episode of Two Player Bros, a podcast about two guys who play way too many video games. Join me and Dave as we talk about the latest in Xbox, PlayStation, PC, and VR news, previews, and reviews. We have it all, and we play it all.
And join us every other week for Post Game, where we play through and dive deep into our favorite modern classics and new releases.
That's Two Player Bros, available every Thursday wherever you get your podcast, part of the Forgotten Entertainment family.
Hi, I'm Mike Field.
And I'm Pat Whalen.
Pat is a lifelong comic book geek.
And Mike is a filmmaker and storyteller. So naturally, a bulk of our conversations surround the world of the Marvel movies. Some consider the MCU one of the greatest achievements in modern-day filmmaking, and others just think they're comic book movies. Each episode will tackle one film and discuss the differences between the comic book and what's on screen. We'll explore the growth of the Marvel Cinematic Universe from its inception to present day and beyond, and have a little fun along the way. You may not have asked for it. You certainly don't need it, but you'll be happy we're here. We think. This is yet another MCU podcast. How's it going, Mike?
It's going well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. We're in the end game now.
We are. Yes, we are. Explain why.
Well, we're reviewing Avengers Infinity War today, but that also means we're coming up on the last 5 movies of the Marvel Infinity Saga, so the first 3 phases. Because our podcast is focused on how this connects to the greater MCU, and while there are future phases planned and shows in the works, we're actually going to end this podcast as we know it with Spider-Man Far From Home.
Correct, even though Endgame is the official ending.
Yes, there's an epilogue.
The unofficial ending. This is the official Spider-Man Far From Home will be what we end with. And but you won't get rid of us, maybe not in podcast form, but you'll see Pat on videos talking about WandaVision and what are the other shows? Hawkeye,
Falcon and the Winter Soldier, right. Hawkeye I'm really excited about. But yeah, we're going to continue this in some form, really hitting on the comics versus the movie, or comics versus the adaptation. Like Mike said, you're not getting rid of us. You'll find us in different forms, but continue to listen, continue to share. And we thank you all for listening. And now let's get to it.
Let's get to Avengers Infinity War, the one we've been waiting for, right? Runtime 149 minutes, rated PG-13. Now you tell me if this is wrong, because I don't believe this number. Production budget, $321 million. That can't be right.
What was the sweet spot number that we
175?
Yeah, this can be right.
$321 million?
I think so, yeah.
So you got a release date of Friday, April 27th, 2018, as that opening summer release date keeps getting pushed back and back and back. It used to be Memorial Day, then it was the first week of May, and now it's for some reason in the end of April.
I can't wait for the summer's movie season to start March 17th.
So opening weekend, it did $257 million. Domestic, $678 million. Worldwide, do you have a guess, Pat?
Over $1 billion.
$2 billion.
Ooh.
$2 billion worldwide.
Wait, what's better than $1 billion?
$2 billion. Oh, that's a little social network there for you. We got the Russo Brothers. They're coming back from doing Captain America Winter Soldier, and then they go on to do Endgame. You had written by Marcus and McFeely, and that same path I just told you about the Russo Brothers, that's the same path for the writers. You also have about 10 out of 15 other writers that are working on this that are all huddled together in a room with maps and whiteboards and all that stuff, trying to figure out what's going on here.
Solving the Golden State Killer murder while trying to figure out the MCU.
Absolutely. You had Alan Silvestri, who is coming back to, I guess he did all the Avenger movies. He did Captain America First Avenger and then all the Avenger movies.
No, I don't think he did Age of Ultron.
Okay, right.
I think Tyler Bates did Age of Ultron.
All the good Avenger movies?
Yes.
Cinematography by Trent Opalak, who has done, again, Winter Soldier, and he goes on to do Endgame. And then obviously we all know who Kevin Feige is. He's the guy that wears the t-shirt and the suit jacket and the hat like he is a 20-year-old filmmaker. Yeah, sorry, I said it. Okay, so...
It says Mike while wearing a hat. Well,
I'm not wearing a suit jacket with a t-shirt like I'm like hip, but, It's cool. Yeah, it's stupid. It's a stupid look.
For those listening at home and those that don't know us personally, we have been involved in the local indie film scene, and we've been in a number of these film screenings where, would you say 90% of the guys getting up there at the end of the film screening would be in this t-shirt, the jeans, and the blazer,
and a hat.
And a hat, or not
a hat.
Yeah. So
well, that's the action figure that you make. That's the look, and the hat's like not attached to the guy. It's off in the its own little plastic area of the bubble where you could put it on and you could get it off. That's the look. Okay, so the cast. This is my cast note. Roll everyone. Name everyone. Other credits, all of them. Everybody is in this movie.
Even Thunderbolt Ross.
Well, Justin Hammer's in this movie, so now I'm a little upset about that. But Thunderbolt Ross has returned. All right, so you know how we like to do.
We're a little punchy this morning.
That makes for good episodes. So you know how we like to do here. Movie first, then I guess the move between the comic, and then movie within the MCU. But this is kind of like, this movie is the entire MCU. So it's, I guess we could talk about how it relates to the future movies going on, or I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. There's a couple players that, you said it has everybody in it. It doesn't have everybody in it. So we'll talk about where those guys were.
Right. Okay. Well, do you want to start off there? Or you want to start?
Let's do a review. Let's do our normal thing.
Did you like it? Did you like it? Well, you've seen it more than once, right?
Yes.
Because I have not. I think the last time I saw this movie was in the theaters.
Okay.
I didn't even because it's never really on HBO or Showtime. It's just on Disney Plus now, and that's where you can find it.
Yeah, I think it was on Netflix for a while, and now it's on Disney Plus.
But that's not like something you would stumble upon flipping around.
Right.
I will say this, that I actually enjoyed it. I liked it.
Yeah.
My only problem is that I feel a little annoyed with myself that I'm, for some reason, watching a CGI character of Thanos perform these like dramatic scenes, and it's just like, I can't get lost into that.
Okay.
Because it feels phony because it's not real. No one's there.
Right.
I don't know how you feel about that.
They had Josh Brolin there on set with the dots on his face.
With the dots on the face and a giant apparatus, and he had to wear styrofoam so that nobody can get close to him, so they can adjust it so when people would go near him, it wouldn't get too close because they got to put Thanos in. And he had to put something above his head so they look up. Come on,
they knew where the eye line was.
How ridiculous is that?
Welcome to the modern age of filmmaking. But you like it.
I do enjoy it. The opening, because the opening starts off when they're the Thor ship from the end of Ragnarok, which were about 2 movies between. Ragnarok was before Black Panther.
Yeah, Ragnarok.
Okay, so you're about 1 movie and A Space of Time.
Yep. And
I felt a very Alien 3 vibe in terms of how the end of Aliens, you're like, yeah, they did it, and then they die. And then I don't know why I'm laughing. And then in this one, like same thing, it really didn't matter. You really didn't get to Earth. You were about to get destroyed. And I know you see that in the cutscene and everything in the end of Ragnarok, but it kind of felt a very Aliens to Alien 3 vibe there.
That's fair. Okay. Yeah. And I know that like one of the ships survives because that's Thanos' MO is that 50% survive. And then they eventually make their way to Earth. But yeah, you come in, it starts hot. And a lot of this movie, what I noticed is the pacing is very good, especially when you compare it to Endgame. Like I felt this one is a better paced film, but it moves it along through the different set pieces. So you start with the attack on the Asgard ship, then you go right into the New York invasion, and it brings in Doctor Strange and Spider-Man and Iron Man, and then you get the Vision and Wanda scene.
Yeah,
in Ireland or Scotland or wherever they are.
They're in Scotland. Okay. They're in Edinburgh.
That's right.
Because it has a very gothic look, and they wanted something dark. That's what I read in the notes.
Sure. And then you go to the Wakanda battle, and then finally the battle on Titan. So a lot of it moves quickly because you're moving in between these big pieces. But I don't think it's, because we talk about this in Guardians of the Galaxy, and I want your take on it, is Guardians 2 was a lot of flash and not substance. This is a lot of flash, but I feel like there is substance. There's a lot of good character moments in the fights themselves.
Yes. Well, I'll just go with the Guardians. So the first time you see the Guardians, it's almost like the cool kids have showed up, and that's great
in this movie.
Like everyone's like being serious and all this stuff. Then all of a sudden, the Rubber Band Man song comes on, and here they are, and they're just chilling. It's like, all right, the cool guys are here now. All right, cool, and that's fine. But then, of course, once Thor gets inside there, then
he's the cool guys,
and I start getting annoyed because they have the shtick where he starts pretending to do his voice, which is fine in the beginning, and then it keeps going. Yeah. It's a little too much. I feel like. And I don't want this to come off as an insult of Chris Pratt's process, but I really think he just needs to pull it back. Somebody needs to pull him back just a little bit.
It's just a tad.
Just a
smidge.
little bit, because that's the one thing that I liked. I do not like Jurassic World as a whole, but because it's Jurassic Park. And,
no, it's bad Jurassic
Side
Park.
note: my son who's 8 years old said to me, he's like, "Oh, this is Jurassic Park. What are those the good guy, the blue in Jurassic Park?" I go, number one, that's Jurassic World, and number two, if we will watch Jurassic Park at some point, and you will, and because Jurassic World is basically Jurassic Park. But anyways, well, I digress.
Since we're on a Jurassic Park tangent right now, somebody said to me, "I don't watch dinosaur movies for the smart," and that's wrong, because if you go watch Jurassic Park, it's the perfect movie. If anybody's into filmmaking, it's cause and effect the whole time.
Yeah. Because
X, Y happens, and because of Y, Z happens, and so on and so forth, that they appropriately set things up and the characters are built. I don't think you could tell me there's better movies out there.
Oh, yeah.
But in terms of genre films, Jurassic Park might be the top genre film.
2 words: Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
He knows how to tell. I love how people rip on him. And I've done this before on the other podcast. He knows how to tell a story, and that is what he did there. That's it. Period. Stop. He knows how to tell a story. He knows what to do to get you involved and interested. And he just knows he's a great storyteller.
Yes.
He's one of arguably the greatest storytellers we have right now, and maybe ever. Okay. Where was I?
The Guardians.
So I just wish that they pulled Pratt, because my note about Jurassic World was that in Jurassic World, I do actually like Pratt in that, because he is not Quill. He's reserved a little. Yes. He's pulled back a little, which I appreciate. So I know he can do that. I just wish they kind of just pull him back just a little, because it makes the moments when he gets upset about finding out about, spoiler alert, Gamora dying. He doesn't care about Thanos and that whole thing at the end, and he blows up that mission. That would be more effective for me if he's just not as goofy throughout. But that's it. That's just me, though. I could be wrong, and that's fine, but that's me.
No, I agree with that. You're right. His toe is like just over the line. If they just bring him back behind the line, he'd be good.
Right. I think we should now refer to Steve Rogers as Sexy Beard Rogers, obviously.
Obviously.
I mean, because I know you probably, when you were watching that, like stood up a little and was like, "Oh, God,
absolutely.
You son of a bitch."
During the beginning of pandemic, I was growing a beard out, and I may have mentioned it. Like, when I get out of this pandemic, I'm going to be looking like Steve Rogers. There were a lot of eye rolls in my apartment.
As there should be.
Not for me.
I know that.
And I don't really have a beard anymore.
Pat, I don't even think you could ever get your hair that long. I think that's impossible.
I think that's a wig.
I think your head does. That was a wig he was wearing?
That's a wig.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I think that I'm 99% sure that was a wig.
I'm a little upset about that. I mean, come on, man, grow your hair out.
Yeah.
What the heck? Wait, you can't? You're too cool? You're too cool? It makes sense, though, because it was almost like perfect.
Yeah. Which is a great moment. So, like, in terms of the humor in this movie, there's a lot of really good, aside from Star-Lord being buffoonish, there's some really good moments that everybody gets a serious beat, but then they get like some funny moments. So like when Steve is fighting in Wakanda and Thor shows up and he's like, Thor's like, Steve copied my beard and
which is an ad lib.
Yeah. And Steve is like, oh, new haircut. But then of course you have the moment afterwards where he's like, Steve, this is my friend Tree. Because I am Groot. I am Steve Rogers. Like, and so there's a lot of good moments with that, with the Spider-Man scene with him saying, "Oh, so we're using our made up names
with Doctor Strange." Yeah.
I think sometimes the MCU gets slack for making things too joke like.
Yeah. Okay.
But this has, there's some good real character moments in it, but then there's some really good humorous moments that kind of kill some of that tension.
Well, there's times to ad lib, and there's times where you can't let the ad lib be the main dialogue. You're relying on that to drive home some dialogue or some points. So that's, and the other thing with, because I'm thinking about Robert Downey Jr. and Tony Stark's character is I feel like Tony Stark is always mad. He's always upset about something. He's always at somebody about something. And I feel like it's like you have to expect it now. He has to like get upset. And the whole point when he tells Strange or something, he says, Thanos has been with me for 6 years. I'm like, really? Ever since the attack on New York, he's been, ever since I stopped him, he's been in my head. Since when?
Well, that's why he made Ultron or planned to make Ultron and the Iron Legion and everything. So he was preparing for, because they mentioned the term Endgame in Age of Ultron. You know, he's preparing for what comes next. But this goes back to how they wrap stuff up, but then they don't wrap stuff up. So, you know, when we were talking about Iron Man 3, we said this feels like the ending. Like he's giving it up. You know, he's come to terms with all this stuff. And then next moment we see him in Age of Ultron where he's building all these robots and everything. Yeah. And then we see him now first in Civil War and then in...
Well, he pulls him up in for Pepper, and then he lies about it and he keeps going,
I know Robert Downey Jr. in a number of times is, you know, in or out of the franchise, depending on where that dump truck of money was. And I think they were kind of hampered early on, figuring out what he was going to do with the future. And so they wanted to cap the character. And then they had to reel him back in. And to your point in Age of Ultron that you made, you wish he just went full heel.
Yeah.
And became the villain. And he's got these moments where there's tons and tons of people who love the character, but he's not very likable.
No, he's not. I've grown to not really enjoy his presence on screen in terms of like, ooh, like watching all these movies and with you and kind of going through everything. I'm definitely a Cap guy. I'm definitely a Captain American guy. I like him on screen. I like his presence. It could be just Chris Evans, but maybe it's just how they write him. He's somebody who I want to see more of on screen than I really do Tony Stark or Iron Man. Yeah. I just, at this point, I just don't. And I don't know if that's by design or if that's just how the characters are written or how it's ad-libbed. But if Captain America was more of the heart and soul of the entire series, and he is kind of just because he holds himself that way, I think it would have been much stronger. But, you know, whatever. That's not my choice. So it's no big deal. They actually repeat that line you talk about when he says we're in the end game now in Ultron. Strange says it. Do you know what that means? You know what end game? You know what that term is from?
No.
So for all you Queen's Gambit fans out there, when you're in the end game, it's the end of the chess game. And when you're about to, that the path to it's ending. And that's something they say, we're in the end game now. Like, that's kind of like, this is the end game. So that's where that's from. So you know the inevitable, you know you're in the final stretch kind of thing. And so what else inside the movie within this movie that you actually maybe discovered for the first time again, or no?
Maybe for the first time again.
Okay.
I remember noticing this, because I have seen it more than once. I saw it before Endgame came out in theaters, it was on Netflix. You just throw it on. One thing that I noticed and it's what I really like is the pairings of the characters. So they match some of the characters with people we haven't seen before. They match similar personalities together. So when you look at the characters on Titan, so the Titan characters, the Guardians plus Iron Man, Strange, and Spider-Man, a lot of egos in that group. And so as a writer, how are you managing these big-headed characters? And then alternatively, how do you... We talk about Chris Evans and Steve Rogers being the heart and soul. He's with the Wakanda crew, and it's a little bit more of everybody's on the same page. And so talk to me about that dichotomy between the two pairings.
Me?
Yeah. Like how do you write that when you're writing and you're coming up with characters and storylines? How do you look at the personalities of the characters when you put them together?
It's probably more about when you're first putting this down on paper, where everybody is in terms of within their own stories. So, Thor's in space, the Guardians are in space. So that makes sense that they would get together. And it's always, it always in a story contrivance or, kind of like a plot point where you split them up. You got to split up the team. And you have the Gamora and Thanos connection. When you're on Earth, I mean, it makes Stark is in New York, Strange is in New York. So, they're going to get you want to get them together at some point. That you left it with Rogers and Stark, that they were not together, but it says call me anytime you can. So you get that number. Then you have to figure out how to squeeze Banner in this because he has not been on Earth for years. And they do an okay job of like, oh, hey, I'm back. They made so much of a connection between Natasha and Banner in the other movies. A 30-second head nod or a look is not good enough. Right. You need to have, I know it's a long movie. You need to give them a scene. You just do. We've earned that. If that was in the movie, if somebody argued that should be taken, I'd be like, no, that can't be taken out because that has been earned. Yes. So so you have stuff where you can't put all that in there.
And when you're talking a 2.5 hour movie, you could add a 4-minute scene.
They do a little bit more with the Winter Soldier than I thought they would with the White Wolf or whatever. Yep. Man, I don't need that. I already know he's there. They've repeated the scene where they go give him the arm when they already were in the end of Black Panther. They're already like, he's ready for his training. Like, why do I need to see the arm scene?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What just happened with the arm? So, you know,
it's a weird line just to kind of, it's more of one of those comic book lines where it's like, you know, where's the fight? It's coming to us.
Right.
And so like it was more just to have that line in there than to make a meaningful
why
scene.
not just put that with, have them in downtown Wakanda looking out and noticing that maybe the ships are coming, and then he just deliver the line then, and then boom, and then he comes down and they greets him. Why can't you just do that?
Yeah.
If I was writing this and I was, hey, we need to put all these characters, I would try to figure out where everyone is first.
Mm-hmm.
Then I would start putting them together, but then I would start, how would they react to what type of characters are, how would they react? You don't want, you kind of do the Quill Thor's thing, so you don't want them together because that's just gonna,
it's going to continue on.
Yeah. So split them up. Yeah. The idea that it's like they do this thing where they split up with him, with Groot and Rocket and Thor. They do this whole thing where he's going to go get his axe. Interwoven in there is Groot growing up, or Groot taking responsibility.
Yes.
But just because he goes and he that one moment when he goes and puts the things together.
Yeah. And you get very little time spent with young Groot.
Yeah.
Or teenage Groot. You get a lot of time spent with baby Groot in Guardians Volume 2. You get a scene when he swears at them, at them and they say, whoa, watch your language. And so you see him just head down playing a video game. And we're supposed to all know intuitively that he's a teenager. He's a moody teenager who just wants to put his face to a screen and not deal with his parents. So intuitively, that's what you're supposed to understand. But we don't get, you're supposed to see his story evolution in the span of, 3 scenes?
Yeah.
If that,
that's the stuff that kind of goes by the wayside. And the main players, I guess Endgame, not to jump forward, is probably more for the originals, because that they're the ones that survive, and it gets a little bit more dramatic in the beginning, and that's for them. So, okay, maybe you don't do them as much in this one.
Well, Captain America doesn't get a lot of screen time.
He doesn't, but he has more memorable moments.
He does, yeah.
I'm sorry. Iron Man fighting in the opening fight scene, that's not really memorable for me in terms of fighting. What is his name?
Ebony Maw.
Okay.
And then
that's not really memorable at all.
Yeah.
It's not, there's nothing iconic in that moment for Iron Man. There's probably like 3 or 4 scenes in this movie where Captain America is involved with it, and it's iconic.
Yes.
When you meet him, when him and Black Panther are running ahead of the pack and jumping. That's another one. When he says, get this man a shield, he's got the shields. I know that's a big thing in the comic, or that he used those type of shields before, not to jump forward. So he's got moments there. Iron Man doesn't. His moment is in Endgame, obviously, but not in this.
And he has the moment where he gets stabbed and you think he's going to die.
Sure.
But he doesn't.
Right.
Again. And I don't know if it's,
that was.
And this is another piece on it, is there's a couple false deaths in this one.
Mm-hmm.
There's obviously Gamora dies and she's gone, but then we pick up an Endgame where she's an alternate timeline version of Gamora.
Yeah.
But in this one, we see Drax and Mantis cut to ribbons and put into cubes. And then we see Tony stabbed. And then those are easily kind of erased away. Drax and Mantis form back up, and then Tony just sprays on some Bactine. I don't know, whatever. Do those false deaths make the end snap more pertinent, more you know what I'm asking?
You're saying, does it lessen the snap when everyone dies?
Or does it make the snap still worthwhile? They've already turned 3 deaths.
No, because
on their head.
It's just how many times have we seen Stark get the crap kicked out of him, and then it's more like those are battle scars. I will say the one moment in this movie that carries through the entire series after that is when his Hulk gets scared, and he won't come out. That's probably the most important one, I guess, or the one that I kind of gravitate towards the most. But that being said, I absolutely cannot stand the effect of Mark Ruffalo in the giant Hulkbuster. Is it Hulkbuster?
It's a Hulkbuster. We were watching this the other night
because he looks so
Mike hates this.
Stupid. Oh, you guys are so screwed. You're just a floating head. It's so dumb. So dumb. Oh God. Man, just dumb. I don't like that. I don't like it. It makes me look stupid. It's corny.
It's a corny visual.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You have one of the most iconic moments in the whole entire franchise when Thor lands
and throws the Stormbreaker all over the field.
And then you got to go to this goofy dude talking. Just so stupid. God, I hate it. Now you brought it up, I'm so angry.
So I'll pivot to one last thing that I wanted to. Well, actually, one moment on the Wakanda battlefield that I was watching, and I was like, for those that have watched The Boys, that there's a scene in the season finale, the girls get it done moment, that was a thread throughout the entire series.
And that was a complete ripoff.
It was a complete ripoff of the scene in Endgame.
Not a ripoff. I apologize. A
parody
of what they tried to do in Endgame. Yeah.
And we'll get to the Endgame scene next time, but there's a much better girls get it done scene in this one, and that's when Okoye and Black Widow rescue Scarlet Witch, and she what is it, Proxima Midnight, one of the Black Order.
Yeah.
She is fighting Scarlet Witch, and it says, "Oh, you're all alone." And then Black Widow comes, like, she's not alone. And
right.
Okoye and Black Widow on either side. That's an organic scene.
Yeah.
And it feels much better than the nonsense we get in
Of
Endgame.
Course. The nonsense you get in Endgame is tacked on.
Yeah.
And it's wink, wink. Hey, look at us. It's
we're diverse.
You can get that moment without shoving it in there. Shoving it in there is lazy.
Yes.
And I get it. It was a scene they wanted to put at the end, and they went and reshot it. But that's how it feels, and that's why it gets criticism. And what you're trying to say is an awesome message. Super positive, and I agree with it 100%. The way you did it sucked.
Yes.
The way the execution is terrible. This moment is organic, and you're watching it, and it
feels good.
Right. It's storytelling done right.
And then that brings me to my final point that I wanted to bring up with you is Thanos. He's the main character in this one.
Pretty much.
The story follows him, and that was a thing that the writers had brought up is, when you have so many other threads going on, you need to use him as he's the villain of the film. He's the antagonist, but he's the through line through the whole thing.
Right.
Did you like that?
No, because you have me rooting for a cutscene in a video game. You know what I mean? You have me watching him emote. Maybe if I was in the year 3000 and all films were CGI, okay, maybe I would be emotional about that. But I can't get emotional about a digital character getting upset. I because he has to kill his daughter, right. Or like with the scene when he gives her the knife. Oh, come here, little one, and it's like, it's so fake. It's you look perfect balance. Who cares? It's a
and then in the background there's total genocide.
Yeah, there's nothing going. Like there's two people in that scene. There's probably Josh Brolin in a styrofoam suit
and
the girl and nothing else.
Yes.
Listen, I know that you'll probably in the future, because they do it for Mandalorian, that the stagecraft all that stuff
screen,
because you saw the Disney investor thing that they're building 3 more. They built a bigger one in LA, so there's 2 in there. They're building in New York, London, and Australia.
There's not gonna be one in Atlanta. I was surprised by that.
I heard New York, London, and Australia.
Okay,
so maybe.
Well, Australia is pushing big on film credits.
Yeah,
to get stuff out
and
there.
The technology is fantastic. I'd love to shoot on stagecraft. It's not for anything, but it's the same thing they did in the movie Oblivion with Tom Cruise.
Underrated movie.
Yes, absolutely. And when they have him, they do the same thing. They have projection around and it lights the entire scene. So it's kind of not brand new now. It's been around, and it's a great idea.
We're probably going to see it in Thor: Love and Thunder.
Sure, you're going to see it in everything.
They're filming in Australia right now.
The shape. You're going to, because it's the easiest thing to do. You keep everyone together, especially shooting during COVID-19. Everyone's together. Everyone's in a quote unquote bubble. So you're absolutely going to shoot like that. And like I said, I would love it.
Yeah.
Love to be part of that. That's great. But this is the sacrifice you make. And now I have to try to connect with a digital character. And it gives the filmmakers, I think it makes it harder for them to create that connection. And I get that he has to be kind of the main through line because it's his movie almost.
Yeah.
And
he's got the mission. He's collecting things.
We have to find out his motivation. I didn't understand why they went to Titan. Like, they went to Titan because he knew he was going to be there. Because
that's where the ship was taking him.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the whole plan was to go get.
I don't know how the Guardians knew, unless they knew that that's just where Thanos was from. He's from a moon of Saturn, on Titan moon.
He sends Ebony Maw to go get the stone.
Yes, and then his plan, on autopilot to come back home.
But his plan was to go get the stone, and then I'll meet you in Titan. It wasn't just to go get the stone and then
I'll meet you on Earth.
Yeah,
there's more on Earth that I need.
Why
to get.
do I need you to go to Titan when I could just meet you at Earth and get it then? Like that.
The only thing that I could think of is Ebony Maw came back. Thanos said, let's regroup on Titan. You bring those things back to me that you get.
Right.
But then when he realizes, I only was able to get the mind stone or the time stone. Now I got to go do it myself.
Right.
The I'll do it myself line he said 15 movies ago. Yeah, I think you're right. And I think the moment just about, back to Thanos being a complete digital character. I love, Josh Brolin's a great actor, but the moments that really hit home are a lot of the ones that are between two actors, really. When Scarlet Witch is killing Vision, Paul Bettany's on set. He's in the Vision makeup.
Yeah,
he's in the Vision. He might not be in the full suit, but he's there staring across from her.
Of course.
While they're doing that. And so they're sharing the same eye line. They're looking,
but I'm just picturing her, I'm picturing her standing over him, like with their hand. Yeah. it just makes me like, I always laugh. Acting. I know, I get it, but I always laugh when like Strange and like they're doing, he's doing the thing. I'm like, you got nothing there, man.
He's like a Power Ranger.
I got it.
To that point, there's a lot of good moments between the characters or the actors. Even with Thor and Rocket and Tree and Eitri the dwarf, those are all actors there. They might be, might not look exactly the same, but they're there on set. And even, it's not quite there, but I think Peter Dinklage delivers a better performance than Josh Brolin does, which is why you feel more for him.
Yeah.
As the now handicapped dwarf.
He's got that line when he was like, the full blast of that star will kill you. Is like, what does Thor say?
You understand, boy, you're about to take the full force of a star. It'll kill you. And then Thor responds with, only if I die. And Idri's like, yes, that's what killing you means. And it's delivered so well.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, it's like, he doesn't believe him. Like, yeah, that's what it means. And he's like, shakes his head. Yeah. The one note I have here is that there was probably around or a little over 3,000 shots in this movie, and 2,900 of them had visual effects.
I mean, think of all the guys in the suits. I mean, the only, I'm trying to think which one wouldn't have it. And maybe Peter on the bus, like the kids on the bus itself.
No, because his hand goes up. He's got no.
Oh, that's right.
Peter on the bus because this is the first time they use the Spidey sense.
Right, that's true.
So you see his hairs on his arm go up, but then he looks out the window and he sees the giant thing in the water. and I'm sure the bus wasn't on the bridge. I'm sure the bus was like in a big studio, and then because they're not going to the whole thing's it's all fake. It's not even a bus. And then
thanks for that Spidey sense. Really cued me in on the giant alien invasion there.
So the other thing I had here, and we should probably move on to the differences. To your point about how you write this, the script was actually started before the Thor 3 script was finished. And so they didn't know how Thanos would find Loki. They didn't know that part.
Yeah.
So there you go. They're like, because this movie started 2 weeks after Black Panther wrapped.
Right. Okay.
So it's like, oh, good job. We did Black Panther. You got to get to work though. We got to finish Infinity War going.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure when they're filming though, they did a lot of the Wakanda scenes first,
right? In
terms of continuity of filming, so that you already have the Wakanda set up. You already have the actors and the crew and the costumes and everything, so that you could just wrap them.
You're all in Atlanta already. Yeah.
Trying to get them to come back.
Yeah. And I didn't know that the official name of the snap is the Decimation.
I think they talk about that in Endgame. I think everybody was calling it the snap.
Well, they were calling it the blip, right? A lot of people
call it the blip in Endgame.
Well, because no one knows it's the snap that what happened. People just disappeared. Yeah. Like I'm talking about regular people, us regular folk that aren't superheroes. But why don't we move on? I don't know where you want to go. Why don't we talk about what this film was inspired by in terms of what happened in certain Marvel comic storylines? Maybe that better?
Yes, that works. So there's three main, there's a handful of other influences in this one, but there's three main storyline influences. The most prominent one is Infinity Gauntlet. So Infinity Gauntlet, it was a 6-issue oversized miniseries by Jim Starlin, George Perez, and Ron Lim, both on the art there. It was published back in 1999. It was really the conclusion of sorts to Jim Starlin. Jim Starlin is, one of the big space opera type guys in the Marvel Universe. And so he had introduced Thanos back in the mid-70s. Infinity Gauntlet is one of the conclusions of that storyline. So it brings together the Thanos character, a lot of the space-based characters, and Adam Warlock, who we talk a little bit about in the Guardians Volume 2 episode. The series opens with Thanos having collected all of the Infinity Stones. There's no him bouncing around to Earth and all over the place collecting them. That happened in previous issues. He's got them now, and he is a god. There's no question about it. He has all of the power, if not more, than all of the gods in the Marvel Universe. He is the most powerful being of all time when he has the stones. And so He collected the stones to impress Lady Death, being a female personification of death. Skull face, purple robes. Close your eyes and think of death, and that's what you get. The one big difference here is when it opens, the Silver Surfer, who is a former herald of Galactus, you could kind of, if you just want a real quick hit of that, go watch the second Fantastic Four movie. Doug Jones plays him pretty well.
Voiced by Lawrence Fishburne, though.
Yes. Yeah. He tries to stop Thanos from using the gauntlet and tries to stop it, try to steal it from him. But he gets his butt kicked and gets sent through time and space and crashes into Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum.
The same way the same way Banner does. Yeah,
exactly. And so what's really different here is how they structure the snap, the decimation, whatever you want to call it. It happens at the end of the first issue. It's not halfway through the series. It hasn't built up to it. It happens without much fanfare. So again, in a way to impress Death, Thanos just says, okay, I'm going to rid half the life in the
So
universe.
he's only doing that to impress a woman and not because he feels the universe needs to be culled so it can thrive.
Yes. And she continues to spurn him. He's trying to impress her and he does all these things. He's like this, he's peacocking around with this new power. And she's just like, I don't care. So they do the snap. People are just wiped away. It happens the same way that it happens in the teaser or in the tag of this film,
right?
Where the planes are crashing, cars are crashing, people are just disappearing left and right.
Right.
There are obviously a handful of remaining Avengers. They band together with Silver Surfer. Adam Warlock comes and they go and fight Thanos. They don't stand a chance.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a shot in hell of beating him. Most of them are killed pretty easily. There's a scene, I don't remember who it was. I think it was Drax, but it wasn't Mantis that did the ribbons and cutting into cubes thing. Thanos is just having fun with him. He's using all the power of the gauntlet to
the reality stone.
Yeah. And he pummels Captain America. He whacks Wolverine and breaks his neck. And it's a bloodbath.
Right.
And so that's in the second and third issues. By the second issue. Then Adam Warlock, knowing that this was basically just a test, he brings in a lot of the celestial beings, some of the characters we talked about on the Guardians one, or we'll figure out some way to introduce when we get to the Eternals. Galactus, the Planet Eater. He brings these characters in that were huge metaphysical, theological based type beings in the Marvel universe, and then they fight Thanos. Thanos still wins. And so the only way that Thanos loses is because he's still trying to impress Death. So he turns off the power. He tries to go back to being immortal and saying, well, I could still do this being my normal self. What really happens is he just gets confused. His mind gets clouded. He gets overconfident, and Nebula, his tortured semi-daughter, steals the gauntlet from him. And then so Adam Warlock eventually takes it from her.
Right.
And they return the universe back to normal. But there's no Captain America punching him and actually making him bleed. It's completely a bloodbath of Avengers characters. And it happens over the course of an issue.
Well, let's talk about Rogers. Yes. Tell me about Nomad Rogers and the Captain.
In one of the number of times that Steve Rogers is disillusioned with the government,
right,
he refutes the identity of Captain America.
Okay.
And so he starts by going with the name Nomad. Don't look up the costume.
Well, it's supposed to be like this, right? This one? No.
It's got a big, it's the same. It's very similar coloring.
Right.
But it's not like the Captain America suit without the star. It's got he's got a cape. He's got a mask that doesn't go all over like the helmet. It's got a big, deep V cut to it.
Okay.
It's not good. Don't look up the costume. He's only the Nomad for 4 issues.
Okay.
In back 70s or 80s. Then he becomes the Captain in another turn of I don't like the government.
Right.
And that's when he gives up the Cap identity. John Walker, aka the US agent, who we're going to meet in the Falcon and Winter Soldier show, becomes Captain America at that time.
Okay.
Steve's buddies come to him and say, Steve, you can't give up being a crime fighter. You need to be a superhero again. And he says, okay, fine. So he puts on a new outfit, red, white, and black. And that's got a little bit more of the black, dark blue coloring on this one, where he looks more like your traditional Captain America, just slightly different coloring. And that's when he just becomes the Captain.
Okay. All right.
So he goes as the captain for a little bit, but again, he always comes back to being Captain America.
While we're on Captain America,
Yes.
I referenced it that he's given a shield by T'Challa in the movie. What's that? How is that? How does that reference the comic?
Yeah. Initially, when Steve is the super soldier back in the 1940s, and then when he comes back in the 60s, he just gets the shield. He has that normal triangle, upside down triangle shield, and then he has the vibranium adamantium mix shield in the 60s when he comes out the circular one. However, they wrote a series called Captain America, Black Panther, Flags of Our Fathers that came out in like 2009, 2010 that takes place during World War II. It sees Nazis and the Red Skull try to invade Wakanda. And so Cap, Nick Fury, and the Howling Commandos, again from First Avenger, they help the Wakandans and T'Challa's grandfather protect the city. And so through that, they give him a circular shield that's made of vibranium that would, inspires his use of the circular one that we got today. Yeah.
Well, you bring up Red Skull. So Red Skull in this movie is guarding the Soul Stone.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I guess, at the end of First Avenger, he's sent away. He's sent off to go guard another stone, even though that's not the stone he was trying to get. But regardless, I know it's not the same actor. That's fine. I don't care about that. Everyone knows that already.
It's a weird role to bring back Hugo.
Yeah, who
Weaving
cares?
for
Like,
anyway. Yeah.
okay, Hugo Weaving, you want to come back for what? One scene? It's okay. My question is that Red Skull's fate in the comics? And I don't know if we brought this up in First Avenger because that was so long ago, but I'm curious if that's his fate.
No, it's not.
Okay.
So Red Skull's traditionally tied to the Cosmic Cube, the one that he was trying to get in First Avenger,
Right.
not the Soul Stone. He's come back a number of times though as different characters. Sometimes as kind of Russians, always Nazis, Hydra in disguise. But no, he's never really been this. He's never been Vormir, as far as I can tell. He's never been the protector of the Soul Stone. I like what they did with it.
Now they
But
made
this
up.
is-
Didn't they make up Vormir for this?
Yes.
Okay, so Vormir's not in the comics. No. Okay, that's curious.
Yeah,
Not to
so-
cut you off.
No, but I like what they did. This isn't his thing. He continually torments Captain America, but he's always based in more the reality. Like Captain America's stories are a little bit more based in reality.
Yeah.
More espionage, more politics and government and just street fighting type of heroes.
Gotcha.
And so he's come back as various characters, but never like this.
Right. Is the Soul Stone the way the Soul Stone you need to get it? Is that a way they use in any of the comics in terms of making a sacrifice in order to get the stone?
I don't think so. I don't remember seeing that. I have to remind myself that the old stones were different colored.
I got you. Yep.
And so, but I don't remember that being a sacrifice. I know that at different times, different characters were just the protector of the soul. I believe Adam Warlock had the soul stone later on after they had beaten Thanos a number of times, the Marvel Illuminati. So I think we had talked about this either in Civil War or maybe in Black Panther. There's a group of like the smartest, the top representatives in the Marvel universe. So you have, it used to be Charles Xavier, but now it's Beast from X-Men. You have Namor the Submariner from not Atlanta.
Well, that's what I
Atlantis.
should. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where they're gonna film it. Black Panther from Wakanda. Reed Richards from the Fantastic Four. I think I said Iron Man from the Avengers, and then Black Bolt from the Inhumans. And don't go watch the terrible ABC Inhuman show. I think Marvel might relaunch that too. But at one point they all went their separate ways with one of the stones to protect them. But it wasn't, they just held onto the stone. They didn't have to do anything to get it. Which brings me, I kind of want to pivot back to one of the influences for this one.
Sure.
And that's Infinity. So Infinity was a series that came out in 2013. Jonathan Hickman wrote it. It takes place over the 6-issue Infinity miniseries, as well as the Avengers and New Avengers main series. Half of the Avengers team is busy in space helping to defeat a conquering space army who are just like decimating planets. And so everybody has their eye on Earth. So they go up and join with a lot of space-based characters to defend it. While the remaining Illuminati, so all the names I just mentioned, are on Earth defending from Thanos' invading army. And that includes the Black Order, the Cole Obsidian, and they also the Outriders. And so the Outriders and the Black Order come and invade multiple points. So Atlantis, Wakanda. This is where, they do invade Wakanda, but Wakanda repels the attack.
Right.
And so Black Panther gets into fights with various of the Coal Obsidian and the Black Order. But those are the characters that we meet, the children of Thanos that they're called. Ebony Maw, who's the one that takes on Doctor Strange. Corvus Glaive, the one with the scythe and the hood. Proxima Midnight, who is played by Carrie Coon, I believe.
Yep, she is.
She's from The Leftovers, another show about
I don't
some
watch.
of the
I don't watch
population.
Leftovers. Yeah, I know.
It's tough.
I don't watch it.
It's just
I like her. She was in the 3rd season of Fargo. I think she was in the season with Ewan McGregor. She played.
Okay.
Yeah. So no, I like her.
Yeah. And then you had Black Dwarf, who is the hulking looking one.
Right.
And then Supergiant, who doesn't make the cut in this film.
Oh, but they weren't in any of them.
What?
They weren't in any of the movies.
No, they were in this movie.
I know that, but I'm saying
Oh,
all
before
the
that,
times
yeah,
you've seen Thanos, they're never there.
No.
Yeah.
No. They wanted to give him heavy because it's like you said, it's kind of like a video game. They want to give him like various
Boss levels.
bosses.
Yeah. I gotcha.
And so they're called the Coal Obsidian, but they proudly say they can refer to themselves by any name they choose, which is the Black Order.
Okay.
That's the one thing that Thanos will give them in terms of freedom. So, they kind of serve the same purpose. They're generals in his army.
Right.
Ebony Maw does face off with Doctor Strange, and he invades his mind and gets in there and causes doubts and a number of other things. And finally, they expel him towards the end of the miniseries. But that is another piece that the two of them going at it with each other. But the goal in Infinity is not to get the stones, although that's if he can get them, he'll take them. It's to kill one of his children, Thane, son of Thanos, who it eventually ends with Ebony Maw and Thane fleeing Earth, and then Thanos trapped in like a golden block of energy.
Right.
There's a couple things in there. It's the Wakanda attack that we see in this one. Black Panther does plunge Black Dwarf, but I think they renamed him Coal Obsidian in this film.
Yes.
Which, I don't know, maybe they just didn't want to get confusing about Eitri the dwarf.
Maybe they thought it was offensive or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Whatever. It
Yeah.
doesn't really make a difference. He's the big hulking one. And then the other one, in terms of, and then you could come back to me with questions,
Okay.
is Thanos Imperative. So that was another series that this kind of steals from. It was created by the same team that revitalized the Guardians. So Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning, who we meet, and who we talked about in our Guardians of the Galaxy episodes. This kind of ties in a lot of the space storylines that they were doing in the late 2000s, 2010 timeframe, where an alternate version of Marvel, the first Captain Marvel character, he is an avatar of life, where Thanos is deemed an avatar of death. And so once again, Lady Death is rejecting Thanos and spurning him, and he just wants to seek revenge because he just can't get the girl.
Right.
That's what that's Thanos.
That's what the whole comic Thanos is about. Yeah.
He can't get the girl. Those are the kind of series that they pick on here. It's a lot of Infinity Gauntlet plus Infinity with some of the moments from.
And you talked about Infinity. Is that where the Outriders come from? With those
Yes.
creatures that
Yep.
attack Wakanda?
Yeah.
And they're just kind of
They're just
creatures.
yeah, they're just normal kind of grunts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Iron Spider suit to jump to something completely different.
Let's do it.
When does that appear in the comics?
Civil War. So the Civil War comic.
I wanted it because I'm trying to think if I remembered that.
I think we may have touched on it a little bit.
But this is the first time here. Obviously.
This is the first time we see it in the
Right, yeah.
MCU. Yeah. Well, I think we see it at the end of Far From Home. Not Far From Home. Homecoming.
Do we? He doesn't have those things.
They don't show. I think it's just the one in the case that Tony.
You see it. Okay,
Yes.
okay.
But what happens is this one shows up in Civil War. We talked about this with Paul and on the Civil War episode, but when Peter sides with Tony during the Superhero Registration Act and reveals his identity, it means he's now aligned with Tony Stark and the Iron Man team. And so Tony outfits him with new weaponry and tech. And so he gives him this red and gold Iron Spider suit that has the legs that come out.
Right.
So that's what this one comes from.
And we'll get into it in terms of Far From Home and its place in the MCU, but they have firmly locked the Spider-Man and Iron Man universes together.
Yes.
Whereas now you're going to see the same characters from Iron Man in Spider-Man movies. So, but that's something we can talk about.
Yeah, we
later.
can talk about it because we got thoughts on that.
Oh no, of course. Tell me about Stormbreaker.
Yes. So in the Ultimates comics, Thor, he's allegedly a mental patient that believes he's the son of Odin. And so he's Thor, god of thunder. And so he wields this hammer that's shaped similar to the one we see in this movie called Stormbreaker. But the real origin to Stormbreaker actually comes from the Walt Simonson run of the Thor books that we talked about many times throughout all the Thor movies. There was a horse-faced creature called Beta Ray Bill, and he takes on the role of Thor. And so Thor and Beta Ray Bill face off. Beta Ray realizes that Thor, Mjolnir belongs to Thor. That's his hammer. They have a tight bond with each other. So he needs a new one. And so Eitri the dwarf and a number of the other dwarves, so Eitri is the king of the dwarves, he forges Stormbreaker. And it's not quite what we see in this film, but the story of the creation is what they steal from. The design is from the Ultimates.
Okay.
Mostly. It doesn't have anything to do with Groot's arm.
Okay.
In the comics.
I gotcha.
That's new. That's what you had said before is they try to give him an arc.
Yeah, I know.
By making him sacrifice that.
The nanobot Iron Man suit that he's got. Is that in the comics?
Yeah, so there's a couple different nanobot suits. There's a few of them, the Bleeding Edge, and then the Model Prime.
Okay.
Same concept. They look very similar to what we get in this film. Very kind of clean edge, red in the middle, yellow on the sleeves and on the arms and the legs.
Right.
The face mask is very similar. It was called Extremis to the extreme, essentially, as it does.
Here's my thing with the nanobot stuff. I like the idea of it.
Yeah.
But can nanobots really create machinery that can, like when he fights Ebony Maw and he's got his suit comes out, not Ebony Maw, he's fighting the big one.
Cold
yeah. And his suit flies out and he's got those three things that come out and they like shoot his entire firepower. I'm like, it's cool, but like, are we meant to believe that nanobots are doing that?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
They just seem to from Iron Man to Avengers Infinity War, there's been a consistent process to eliminate as much machinery from Iron Man's outfit as possible. So now we're at the point where like, I don't believe that this stuff can do this. I like when he's first practicing it and like, that's believable. That's real world. Oh, wow. He can't get the boosters to work. Great. Now it's just like nanotechnology. I can fire everything. I've got unloaded tons of missiles because they're just nanobots.
Where do they come from?
I don't get it. I don't understand why we're all okay with this.
Well, I think we're okay with this because if you've also noticed, they've pushed away from, and I got a comment about this, but they've pushed away from real weapons to the space laser beam guns.
Oh, well, with the exception of
Bucky with the machine.
I don't understand why why does this guy need to have a machine gun? Can you just get him something else, please?
Everybody else in the field are running with Wakandan technology.
Exactly.
Vibranium spears and shields.
Yes.
And he picked up an AK-47.
I don't, that's just, I mean, at some point, Mick, come on. We don't do that. But go ahead. What's your comment?
No, that was it. That they probably in an effort to sell toys, target the 13-year-old demographic. With the action figures, you're not selling. G.I. Joes don't sell anymore.
Right.
They're not action figures with machine guns. You can buy that Iron Man action figure, buy the accessory that attaches on his back, and now he's got like a rocket pack or whatever. It's a comic book movie. It's a superhero movie. We know, we get it. But when you try to ground your stories in the real world, essentially a weapons dealer fighting the Taliban in 2008 to now a guy with laser beams shooting aliens in the middle of New York City or on a moon of Saturn. And so I think they've slowly eased out the real weapons and really put in the fake ones and the laser beams and everything, aside from Bucky and his...
Okay, I'm going to reference Star Wars now. Star Wars does this. It's actual weaponry and it's actual machinery and it's actual stuff that they have to lug around. It's not,
Well, that happened a long time ago.
In a galaxy far, far away, I get it. To be fair, they've kind of adopted the same Star Wars idea where like, we're going to another planet. You can breathe. Don't worry. Yeah, it's fine.
I mean, I know.
That's fine. It's fine. I'm okay. They do it for Star Wars when we all accept it. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, that completely wipes out any kind of, when anybody complains about it, it's like, oh, how can they do this? Well, if you notice, it's in a galaxy far, far away and a long time ago. So we don't know.
We don't know. It's a galaxy, it's not our galaxy.
Exactly. Hey, we don't know what goes on in this place a long time ago, far, far away. I don't really have anything else because you've kind of touched on the stuff between the differences unless you have something.
Because you had asked me earlier, is Hulk stronger than Thanos?
Right. Okay. Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Not a chance. He gets his butt kicked on a number of occasions. I just want to make sure I don't forget this for when we get to Endgame. Neither is Captain Marvel. So in the Infinity comic, she's part of the Avengers that come back to Earth and fight against Thanos. He doesn't have the gauntlet. He's just normal Thanos. He picks her up and he throws her through a mountain. And she just doesn't, there's not any of that like headbutting. Oh, you could take this.
Sure.
He just picks her up and throws her.
Well, I think that's a product of how they created her in the MCU.
Her movie, yeah.
That's just that they've made her to be this all super powerful being that you really can't roll that back. Right. You can roll that back in her second film because it's her story, but you can't roll that back in a team up Avenger movie because then now you're putting a major plot point in a giant movie that you're going to hope people watch before Captain Marvel too. So I understand that. All right, well, let's move on then because I'm trying to figure out where to start in terms of this movie within the MCU. And I don't know if we should start from the past or from the present or what's going on in the future or what's coming on beforehand. But let me ask this one question. I think I already know the answer to this. WandaVision. When does that take place?
After Far From Home, after Endgame.
Okay, so it does not take place in the 2 years before Infinity War when they're globetrotting.
No.
Okay.
What does take place during that time is the Black Widow movie.
Well, obviously. That takes place in the 90s, I thought. That's the 2 years? That's what that...
It's supposed to take place after Civil War, or moments of it are supposed to take place after Civil War. So when she comes back blonde, like Yelena Belova, the second Black Widow, who is played by Florence Pugh. I don't know if that's her last
that's
name.
right.
Pugh.
That's right. Yep.
Florence Pugh.
From Midsommar.
So she's blonde in that movie. So there's some connections that maybe she picks up, Widow picks up the blondness from her, or some idea. I don't know. But this is supposed to take place after the events, some of the events of Black Widow.
So this takes place after those events. And I'm assuming the second Black Widow is going to take place after the events of Endgame because obviously, spoiler alert, Black Widow dies in Endgame.
Right. Are they doing a second Black Widow?
I would assume so.
Yeah.
They do a second of everything. Have they ever not made a sequel to a Marvel movie?
Incredible Hulk.
Well, they're not allowed to.
Right. No, that's it.
Yeah. So
So and that could be where Florence Pugh takes the mantle.
You don't put Florence Pugh in that a rising star to just have one movie.
Right.
She's
supposed to take. She's supposed to have a role in the Hawkeye series.
Yeah.
And a couple of the other ones. So.
I mean, if we want to get, because we are right after the Disney announcement. If we want to really get into it, it's clear that the path for all these storylines is going to go through Disney Plus.
Correct.
I mean, I guess we can pimp it. It's been out for a while, but Pat and I were on a special episode with Pint of Comics where we talk about the fate of the movie theater industry, our opinions and stuff like that. But it's very clear that while Disney is not taking a lot of their stuff that's set for theatrical release straight to Disney Plus, like kind of Warner Media is doing with Wonder Woman, their whole big slate of 2021 films that they're going to come out on HBO Max for a full month as they're in the theaters. While they're not doing that, Disney is clearly putting a lot of their money into Disney Plus.
When they also see the value of a weekly show.
Right.
In Netflix, it was great when Netflix first came out where they dumped shows within the first 24 hours. You could watch all 8 episodes.
Right.
But Disney loves the idea of, weekly shows and the cottage industry of recaps and shows and podcasts that have come from it that just drive the conversation. I mean, we're obviously guilty of it.
It's consistent content.
Yeah, it is. Florence Pugh is supposed to show up in Hawkeye. There's a lot of new characters that they're introducing, and we're going to talk about one next week when we talk about Ant-Man and the Wasp, and that's the recasting of Cassie Lang. They're clearly building towards a younger version of the team,
of course,
and also a more diverse version of the team. If you look at some of the characters that they're putting on the map right now, and that's perfect for Disney Plus. It's great. And, I don't know how some of the characters are going to translate into a movie together.
Well, some of these stories might never been made in terms of being in the theatrical realm. This is some of these movies. Yes, they could be movies, but most of them would not be made if it wasn't for Disney Plus. So no, I mean,
Black Widow takes place between Civil War and Infinity War. WandaVision is set to take place after Endgame, after Spider-Man Far From Home. And that's going to lead right into Doctor Strange 2 and Spider-Man 3. Then you also have the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show that's going to take place after events of Endgame, where it looks like the guys are still on the run as fugitives somehow, despite that it's now like 7 years after the events of Civil War. So I don't know how some of them are still fugitives and that just didn't get wiped out. But that's a topic we could cover when we do cover Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Why don't we talk about who hasn't been in this movie?
Yes.
So there's no Ant-Man or Hawkeye.
No.
Because they say that they took deals and they're under house arrest. I know that Ant-Man and the Wasp takes place during
I think it takes place
Infinity War.
Lead up to it.
Well, no, because they have the tag
and then
at the
tag
end.
takes place. I don't think the tag takes place the same day as most of the events.
Wouldn't they know that stuff is going on in the world in Ant-Man and Wasp? Do they reference it? I'm not sure if they do.
No, that's why I think it takes place before the Thanos event. And then the day that they go into that Scott goes into the quantum realm to get the quantum
That's
juice,
when the fight, yeah.
That's when the Thanos fight happens. So I think it takes place in like the week leading up to Thanos invasion. But the other thing, the tag of this is a little weird when Maria Hill and Nick Fury are driving wherever they're, and they're like, oh, I'm getting word of ships coming in over Wakanda. And he's like,
massive signatures
coming in over Wakanda. And then next minute, the snap happens.
Yes.
How delayed are your satellites?
Yeah, no, like, I know. That was a little weird.
There are people who are on Twitter tweeting stuff about the Disney Investor Day before your satellites are working about a Wakanda invasion over Wakanda.
That was a little weird. And we see them in the Far From Home tag. They're Skrulls when they're on Earth.
Yes.
But because they're on some ship going to wherever. That's after Endgame that they do that, right? That's not during. Okay.
I don't know. They could have been in Skrulls in this one, but I think there's talk that what the ship that Nick Fury is on in the tag of Far From Home, it's for SWORD. So the Sentinel World Orbital Response Department or something.
Okay.
Where where SHIELD protects, is
the Earth.
The Earth. SWORD is for the galactic invasion. So it's possible that after the Thanos event, so in that 5 years between Infinity War and Endgame, they established SWORD as a protection.
Before while Nick Fury and Maria Hill were not around. Okay.
I don't know.
And Hawkeye's on his farm chopping wood, so I guess,
Yeah, he's spending time with his family.
The Hawkeye show is after Endgame, right?
The Hawkeye show, according to set photos, is set to take place in like 2025, 2026. So
after all this,
when we get the time jump for the next film.
Valkyrie.
She's on the other ship.
No. This is what I read. That there's one ship.
There's supposed to be two ships.
That's not how it was in the end of the movie and end of Ragnarok. They're all standing there sitting on, he's on the throne. They're all behind him.
You're right.
So what I read was that they said that Valkyrie escapes with some other Asgardians and that's how they end up on Earth. How?
Why would she escape?
How?
She's their top fighter.
Yeah,
or one of their top fighters. Maybe she didn't have the fireworks.
So let's just call it what it is. You didn't know what to do. You wanted to have this ending, and then you just toss away this thing. Oh, she escaped.
Yeah.
And like you don't even put it in the movie. You put it. I mean, I don't even remember if it's in Endgame. So maybe it is when we get to it. But like if it's just like a passing line of dialogue. But the way you leave it in this movie is that they stop this ship that's got every single Asgardian. They murder them all, with the exception of Thor, which I don't understand because Thor is the king. Why wouldn't you kill the king? But all right, never mind. Let's kill everybody else. So that's what happened. So that's what we're led to believe. They're all dead. And I got to read in the notes that, Valkyrie escaped with some Asgardians. I'd like to see that.
Again, she's one of their top fighters. You got Thor, Loki, Hulk, Heimdall, and Valkyrie.
Yeah.
She's not going to help defend this.
Yeah.
She's going to run. If anybody's going to run, let Heimdall run. He can do that. That's what he did in the last movie.
Well, he does it in this movie, and he sends Hulk away so you can have the ending where he not the end. You have the beginning where he drops into Doctor Strange. But like, why wouldn't Heimdall send Thor away? Why would he send Hulk away?
I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
So
we my dark magic to send some guy I just met.
So we could get that moment where they get the subtle nod between Mark Ruffalo and Scarlett Johansson.
Hey, I'm back. I know we've had some really touching moments throughout the entire series, but this head nod will suffice. Hey.
Two other things that I got. Well, one, they had a subtle line to the events of Black Panther because T'Challa or Okoye say, what's left of the border tribe.
Right.
So I don't know if are they imprisoned or did they leave?
Well, now, but also they also say that they go and get what's his face?
The Jabari, M'Baku.
But they make it seem like he's not with them. But he's with them at the end of Black Panther.
I know.
I don't.
Did he just go back up to his mountain like the snow?
Right.
I don't know.
Well, and I guess not to cut you off. I know you're going to second thing, but and also I guess when they all lined up in that scene and M'Baku does that war chant, and they all start doing like that wasn't planned, like nobody knew that was going to happen, like because they were hot off of doing Black Panther, which I think is awesome. Yes. Which is like that's fantastic. But go ahead.
That's a good improvisation.
Sure, that's an improv you do. Yeah,
and you do it again, and you're right. Say, hey, do it just exactly like you just did it.
Yeah.
What happened to Thor? You're not the god of hammers. Now he needs a hammer again?
Yeah, I know. I mean, we'll get this with Endgame because I forget. How did he get the hammer back?
What do you mean, how did he get the hammer? Oh, because it was in...
Well, it was destroyed. She destroyed it in Thor Ragnarok. Hela destroys it.
He gets it when he goes back in time to the events of Age of Ultron. Not Age of Ultron. Thor the Dark World. Right. And so he summons it when he's sitting in Asgard because he knows it's there.
Again, we can get to this Endgame. I don't like Fat Thor. I don't.
We're gonna get there.
I don't understand that.
We're gonna get there.
We can get there. I just don't understand that.
And I just have one last because we do get the return of Thunderbolt Ross.
Thunderbolt Ross, baby.
The Sokovia Accords.
They had to bring him up too.
They bring him up.
They brought him up. As soon as they brought him up, I'm just like, come on.
They bring him up, but Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, and Iron Man are running around New York City.
Well, the note I read was that Iron Man is just basically he blatantly ignores them. Like that's what I don't.
So he blatantly ignores them, but Cap and the rest of the crew are on the run because they actively ignored them.
How about when Rhodey and Falcon meet? There's no, hey, oh sorry, I messed up your spine. Like there's
he didn't do that.
Yeah, they were.
Falcon dodged a blast that Iron Man sent.
They were still fighting.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think that's on Tony. We already established we don't like Tony.
Yeah. So, but anyways, but then Rhodey's like, looks like it's a court martial for me. And it's like, well, should we expect them any moment now?
Okay, let's get to that. Let's get that African nation that doesn't have extradition.
They never. Yes, and I don't know. And correct me if I'm wrong, but we never go back to the government's response to any of it.
Yeah.
Like nothing.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Because in Endgame, and again, we're going to cover a lot of this in that episode, but Black Widow is still operating the Avengers. She's operating like a global Avengers with Rhodey, Okoye, Rocket.
Right.
And they're investigating things that are happening around the country, including, but not limited to, Hawkeye killing a bunch of people.
Yeah.
But apparently the government's okay with them doing that. Because it's 5 years later.
Because Hawkeye's going around and killing like bad guys.
Yeah.
Because his family's all been snapped away. Yeah.
I got comments about that when we get to I think.
But thinking about that note, like Hawkeye doing that, that's infinitely more interesting. Like that would be a great series.
Yes, it would.
That would be like a great little Hawkeye movie where after the snap, like what he does for 5 years, like that would be a great trilogy. Do that. I don't think they'll ever do it because I know that Renner's involved with a lot of some domestic disturbance stuff, which, you know.
I think they're going to kind of write him out with the Hawkeye show and bring in Steinfeld as other Hawkeye.
Other Hawkeye.
She's called Hawkeye. They're both
She's
called
not
Hawkeye.
called other Hawkeye though, is she?
Well, he's Hawkeye.
Lady Hawkeye. Lady Hawkeye. Are they gonna do that?
Lady Hawkeye.
Come on.
We're gonna get to this. All of this. Stay tuned.
Oh man. All right. So
anyway, good movie. A lot of stuff.
Yes. Yeah. No, I didn't have a problem with it. I had it on. I actually had it on loud. I wanted to see if my kids would come down because all they do is talk about Thanos. I'm like, well, we'll watch them because that's all they see. Like Thanos. No, don't watch it. I'm like, hey, you guys stink.
Parenting, everyone.
I'm really not good at it. I'm joking. Doctor Strange in this uses the images of Icon, which I'm assuming is when he makes himself 50 different things. Yep. The shield of the Seraphim. I don't know what that is.
That's when he
does
blocks
that
stuff. Yeah.
And the Crimson Band's a Cyttorak.
Yes. So we talked about that.
We talk about how, so in the other Doctor Strange, the Crimson Bands was that thing that, what's his face? Mads Mikkelsen character who gets stuck in.
Yes.
And now we actually see the real Crimson Bands.
These are the comic book versions of the Crimson Bands.
Now how do you do that? How, as the Russo brothers, do you do that and basically say, we don't care that you messed it up in your own movie?
When you film 5 movies or whatever, and you're contracted to film 5 movies and most of them being the top box office ones, so Civil War, Winter Soldier, and then you get the nod for Infinity War, which you know is going to be huge. You don't really care what happens in Doctor Strange 1, especially because Doctor Strange is still a jerk character in this movie.
Well, in this movie, he comes off as the adult in the room.
Yes, he does. He's the nicer version.
Because Tony Stark is such a jack off in this movie. And it's nice to see a character be completely verbally dismissive of Tony Stark, rather
and unfazed by his nonsense.
Whereas everyone else just keeps quiet and rolls their eyes like, oh, that's Tony being Tony. But it's really nice to see someone be like, shut up.
Yeah.
You know, like,
but
that's nice.
He is a better character in this one because he's not as mean. He is still a jerk. Like you said, he's the adult in the room. He's not as nasty as he was in his own movie. And I think that tempering was the best thing that could happen to this character.
Agreed. But I also think that a lot of the reason why our problem with Doctor Strange in his movie was just his blatant disrespect for Rachel McAdams' character.
Yes.
Has she, like we talked about, how she tended to him for years, and she's just so mean to her.
So dismissive.
Yeah, that I think was what, like, Doctor Strange, whatever it's called. What is it? Doctor Strange.
In the Multiverse
is she
of
in
Madness.
that?
Yes.
Okay.
So is
Please
Chiwetel
give me
Ejiofor,
Baron
Mordo, who we're 7-8 years later from the events of the last movie.
Yeah. And he's not even in this one.
No. He's going to be in the Doctor Strange.
I got that. But I'm saying, like, give me a 5-minute scene where he, like, just apologizes to her for 5 minutes. Yeah. Like, just straight up, just like, listen, you don't come back with me, but I am super sorry because I was such a jerk off. But that'll never happen. But, you know, this episode ran long, Pat, but that's fine. We had a lot of crap to get through. It's a wrap. Yeah, no, yeah. I fully expect the Endgame episode to be just as long. So we'll be back next week for Ant-Man and the Wasp. We'll find out what Scott Lang's been doing, all that good stuff. And I don't know if a giant ant returns or whatnot. I honestly, I gotta tell you, I can't even remember what. I know that Walton Goggins is in this, and I have a image of him running down the street with a building in his hand.
Yes, and he's in a white suit for most of it.
Yeah, and then the ghost lady's in this. Oh, and then we get, what's his face?
We get Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, all right. So we're good. We're
Two references to Lawrence Fishburne.
All right. Excellent. So yeah, we'll be back next week for Ant-Man and Wasp. As Pat told you in the beginning, these are the last 4 episodes of the podcast coming up. We are in the end game now. I just wanted to say that. So we will see you next week. But obviously, I am leaving you because Pat has some recommended reading for you. As always, at the end of each episode, we like to send you home with some recommended reading that follows up on some of the characters and plots presented in this week's film. Our recommended reading section is sponsored by Infinite Heroes, comics, cards, and collectibles in Watertown, Connecticut. If you're in the Connecticut or New England area, it's a great location to pick up comics from Marvel, as well as DC, Image, and more. They also have a large collection of trading cards, toys, and collectibles. Owner Paul Santos has worked in comics for years, most recently as an editor at DC Comics. Ask him for a recommendation and tell him we sent you.
Thanks, Mike. And thanks to everyone for listening. This week's recommended reading, we're doing Avengers Infinity War, of course. So we're going to kick things off with the Infinity Gauntlet. Thanos has collected all of the Infinity Stones, and the universe is at his mercy in this Marvel galactic epic by Jim Starlin, George Perez, and Ron Lim. Next up is Infinity, the 2013 event series by Jonathan Hickman and art by Jim Chang, Jerome Opeña, and Dustin Weaver. The galaxy is under attack, and with the Avengers deployed to defeat the threats in space, Thanos and his Black Order attack Earth, hunting for Infinity Stones and his son, Thane. And finally, Thanos Rising. Do you need Thanos' origin story? Then this is the series for you. Revisit Thanos' early days from when his mother tried to kill him at first sight to when he became the nihilistic mad titan we all know and love. Check those out. Thanks again for listening. Remember to please rate, review, and subscribe. Tell your friends. Tell anybody. We'll see you next week.